that they shall be running this evening. First, it will be Valpo Esports JV squad. You will have Wit, I'm Realm on the tank, Kirakuki on the DPS, Kirakuki on the tank, Solarius on support, rounding it all up. So we're going to look at this squad. They've been struggling to get those wins in these past couple of weeks, and now the task is going to be set high as we look towards Purdue Steel.
As the undefeated squad shows up on the screen, Blaze, Blade, Payload, Smogist, Goose, and Monster. I mean, there's a reason why this team is undefeated, and this roster shows why. Lots of talent, lots of incredible players, but it wouldn't be a battle of the Hoosier State if we didn't have a place to start out. And
the speed come out to play as we're going to get our first look at night markets.
It's crazy to me that we spent a preamble talking about Brawl and its importance and failed to mention the best Brawl tank, well, not the best Brawl tank, but my favorite Brawl tank, Junker Queen.
Ooh,
I have
true.
been playing a lot of her recently, and I just love to play her. In my opinion, one of the most satisfying tanks to dominate on. As we take a look at the compositions coming out from both of these teams, Valpo JV looking to play more of an Orisa, so they're going to be a lot more bulky, has that fortify you can pop, has that javelin spin with a Reaper sim, so a lot of damage. For Purdue Steel, they're going more classic Brawl with the Reinhardt with the sim Bastion, so they're hoping to get onto that point, set up quickly, and use that space created to build up to that Symmetra beam and that Bastion configuration turret form to unleash tons of damage.
Such interesting comps, and again, just race to the point. It'll be Purdue Steel with the drop on first. We saw the boop come in from Monster, I believe, to get them off, and with Arum Corvus already down, that's the main source of healing for Valpo Esports. They're not going to be hanging around against a Bastion and a full charge sim microwave beam, Ray. This is why you keep the pace up to 11.
And that was all on the back of Monster, because both teams used that Symmetra teleporter, but Monster got up and booped them out of the window and did not allow them to touch point, which bought enough time for Blaze Blade to get set up on the point with the Symmetra turrets, and it was extremely tough for Valpo to push after that. So the question is, what does Valpo want to do? They're going to keep the sim. I mean, once you've lost this point, the goal is normally you fake a teleporter and look to try and, confuse Purdue Steel a little bit here.
Purdue Steel, especially with the way that they're set up, you do not want to be walking into those turrets that are sitting on the ceiling. Blaze Blade has got this objective locked down. You either need to wait for Purdue Steel to make a mistake, or you need to get shifty on your own, as otherwise they're not going to rush into you like they're doing just now. It is a trade out the Symmetra down, and look how low Kirakuki is. Valpo Esports, they're going to back around the corner knowing that they're down that Symmetra and are going to continue this longer poke.
Yeah, and also the problem with running the Kiriko Lucio is you don't have as much heals that you can pump in to this Orisa and no immortality field available to them. So you have to win these fights that much more quickly if you are Valpo Esports.
It's got to be quick, right? The longer that you're letting Blaze Bait and Payload stay alive, you have to fight against an App Matrix. Nice elimination. No, that's the TP into the back. Valpo Esports, they did something a little bit silly, but it's just the perfect thing to catch Purdue Steel off guard. It is still a 4v3. The turrets are still alive right now, so Valpo Esports, the Kitsune Rush, it wants to be the thing to push them into the objective. You're on the point. What can they manage to do with it? Purdue Steel, they have ultimates online. Should they opt to use them, hopefully they're going to hold on to them to the next fight, because the Valpo Esports looking to put the point.
Yeah, I think they were just trying to stall as long as they could, gain as much percentage as they could. They get all the way up to 82%, which puts them in a really good spot if they can take this point back. But Valpo now in control, looking to set up. You have a Terra Surge. I think the important one is Wit on this Reaper, trying to find a good spot for this Death Blossom as the artillery strike comes in.
And the Earth Shatter too! They're just sitting there laying down dead ducks, but Solaris came in, the Soundbarrier kept them alive, and Smog Og is just fell over. That could have been awful for Valpo Esports had it not been for Solarius.
Solaris, the savior for Valpo Esports, keeping them alive on night market, and they're able to trade out 2-for-1 in the ultimate exchange, so they're looking incredibly healthy in their ults for these next couple of fights to try and match the percentage of Purdue Steel.
Yeah, they're looking nice and good, and if they don't have to use ultimates, that's great, but they're down 2. They're playing in front of these chokes. Wit needs to come up big. The Death Blossom in hand. What are they going to be able to find? It's an elimination onto the Bastion. Very low health and ends up falling without the ultimate coming to play. Valpo Esports, they will have potentially another chance to come out and contest, and thankfully have resources to do it with.
They're going to have to be very careful because they're going to be pushing in to an Ant Matrix that Goose is going to have available. You will have the ult advantage. In general, they found Realm!
Oh, Realm is down. That's the teleporter. Oh, you needed the sim to stay alive. Now they all need to scramble the Terror Surge so early. Kiriki, it gains absolutely no value, and the rest of Valpo Esports are falling apart. Purdue Steel took the initiative. They don't even get the Death Blossom off, Ray. Oh, you got to love this from Purdue Steel. This is why that they are undefeated. They know how to take these final fights, the ones that matter the most, not allowing their opponents to set up as they look primed to take away Night Market.
As that is absolutely ridiculous coming out from the side of Purdue Steel. Constantly finding Wit early enough and off enough in these fights to never use a Death Blossom on Night Market. And they just never played in a position to where Wit could get a good Death Blossom on. It also felt like Wit was waiting for the big one to really set their team up. When sometimes just making sure you secure 1 kill is enough, especially in a brawl composition. You lose that Lucio early, you lose that Baptiste early, you lose the Bastion and the Reinhardt, whoever it is. You get that 1 pick out and the brawl comes crumbling down.
It's going to keep happening here. Valpo Esports, I need to stay together, and honestly, the competition they have is good. I'm a little bit hesitant, though, Ray, to see Arm Corvus on this Kiriko still.
I agree, but you are going to have a lot more damage at your feet with Realm and Wit, but they're down to the Bastion.
You don't have the healing for that, right? You don't have an immortality field. You have to be fast. And with Kiriko, it's very difficult to do that. With the amount of pressure that Kirikuki is gone, I mean, yeah, you're gonna fall over just as fast. Purdue Steel, they're at an advantage with the composition that they're currently playing.
Yeah, as you mentioned, this Kiriko is just not it for Orem Corvus. It's again, they're going to swap over to the Reinhardt, but I still think the same trouble is going to quell you, as an immortality field is just crucial to these brawl compositions to keep your teammates alive that much longer and be able to cycle those cooldowns.
Purdue Steel now. They're going to have this choke lock down the Maywall to back them up. Aggressive charge. Smogus looking to clear the field, and his Time round down again. Valpo Esports, yes, they made a couple of switches. The Baptiste is there, but they don't have the speed. The Junkrat is a problem, and a several jumped off the map. Smogus, it's a triple kill. Oh, beautiful plays from the Reinhardt to Purdue Steel.
Smogus came in and said, I'm going to take over this series on Reinhardt, and is off to a blazing start as Valpo is trying to find any way to push in, but it's so tough when you're facing down the possibility of a Maywall plus the Bastion tank configuration for him.
Oh, this one hurts. This one hurts. Purdue Steel, they just have all of the resources on their side. Valpo, they think that they have the rotation, the fire strike through, the Ant Matrix. The combinations are just so good. Purdue's fight planning is above and beyond what we've seen from Valpo Esports so far. They're struggling to find these rotations in, and now they can't escape a pick onto Monster. That's going to be a big help going on forward, especially with Wit returning from the spawns momentarily. It's going to be one of the best shots that this team will have at pushing up. The Riptire looking to be the thing that tears Purdue apart. They see the immortality field and the Bastion. It'll get destroyed before a mark is even made. Now it's up to the Bastion, the artillery strike. Valpo, this is one of their best shots. Turn the point around. Wit and I'm Realm doing just that. Coming up in the DPS where it matters the most. Purdue Steel are going to be backing off with the remainder of the team that they had.
It cost them a great amount of their ultimates, as we see Solaris, who is on that Lucio, now swapping over to the Baptiste. So you at least have that immortality field available. The problem is you're not going to have any speed use. I mean, you will with the Kitsune Rush, but you're going to have Blaze Blade coming in, and you're going to have no defensive ultimate capabilities to deal with this Blizzard.
No, you don't, and it's essentially going to be free. The only thing you're looking at is Arm Corvus. Can they get them out safe and sound? But will they even need to? The sound barrier keeping Smogus alive despite the shatter coming down. Purdue Steel now. It's the Blizzard to the back. It hits on a 3. The Suzu not even an option in the minds of Valpo Esports. Frozen into popsicles and shattered into pieces on the floor. A touch is looking inevitable here, Ray. Purdue Steel pushing towards the spawns, making sure Valpo get nowhere near the point. Was couple last percentage, taking on up the pin into the spawn doors. Now that is how you are going to end the series. Purdue Steel making their mark.
Very dominant.
Test, and honestly, it's going to give us as casters and you guys as viewers a good idea of what the rest of their season is going to look like. So their start here on Kings Row needs to be a big one to start to set them apart and give them some glimpse of the success that they found at the beginning of the season.
Hopefully, Kings Row is going to be just what the doctor ordered for Valpo Esports as we see Purdue Steel on the defense. They're going to play this Reinhardt, May Bastion, no reason. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. They're just going to continue to play this until Valpo shows them they can somehow break through this composition. As I'm not going to try and talk too much about what Valpo's playing until they actually leave the spawn doors. It looks like they are going to play Reinhardt. But the curious thing is they're going to play double hit scan with Reinhardt, which is extremely perplexing. And Lifeweaver Ana, this is very weird.
You mentioned the hit scan, but not the Lifeweaver Ana, right? I was shocked, but all right. Valpo Esports, they gotta have some plan, but one that probably involves Arm Corvus, who is now dead 6 feet under. You're immediately walking back to those spawns versus Smogus. Takes even more of them out. Oh no! They see where Iron Realm is. This is just gonna be another stagger onto Valpo Esports, and what a good start for Purdue.
The Ana with the Lifeweaver in this situation, you're really hoping to land a big anti-nade to try and set up some picks for your hit scan for Whipped and I'm Realm and allow them to find these picks, because then Solaris on the Lifeweaver can just be the one pumping in all the heals. It allows Armacorius to be extremely aggressive with these nades.
You need something to set you up. There's nothing to counter a Bionade unless maybe it hits a shield or something. So if you can get something out that forces a lamp, some sort of big damage. But you know what the biggest problem is right now for Valpo Esports is they're running into a Bastion with a Reinhardt. There's nothing to answer the Bastion. Maybe you have the poke damage from the double hit scan. You're not going to have the same output, and there's just not that much pressure onto Smogus compared to Kirukuki.
Yeah, because Blazeblade and Payload are going to just be able to put so much pressure onto Kirikuki's shield. And once that's gone, what's protecting your hit scan? They're just going to fall by the weight side time and time again. So we see Solaris making a swap over to the Lucio, which I like when you're playing a Reinhardt composition.
Yeah, you need to have some sort of speed to get your Reinhardt close and move around these chokes. You have that speed. Yes, the trade out is there, but Kirakuki laid down on his back, and the rest of Valpo Esports toppling over like dominoes. Purdue Steel continuing the hold.
And getting that late pick on to Solaris is going to be big because it's going to allow Monster to get back into this fight. So there's going to be no window of opportunity for Valpo to be able to push in, and the ults are just mounting as you only had to use Shatter for that fight. As we see a swap, no more Reinhardt on the field, as we see Kirikuki going over to the Ramatra and Wit going to match and play the Bastion. This is where they might have an opportunity to push in, because now they can shield pressure Smogus.
I like this. I like it a lot. It's more pressure on the tank has been causing you problems, but they need to break through this choke first and foremost. The Maywall out of the way, but Kirakuki struggling to stay alive. It's the defensive Bionade to land onto the tank. Keep that health back up. Time running low with the Nano overclock in the background. Valpo Esports, you need to push up with the space Iron Realm is providing for them. But Sound Barrier, Purdue Steel, they're answering it back. They don't care that they lost a player. They have all of the ultimates in the world to work with it, making it look like absolutely nothing, Ray. And it's all gone to waste. Valpo Esports still very much alive in this fight and have finally gotten themselves onto the objective.
Yeah, as they're now just going to start getting up this percentage on the point, but 3 minutes wasted if you are Purdue Steel, and they're going to be able to just regroup and take a fight at these archways, which is going to be tough, but I like the swap over to the Ramatra. There's not a lot Smogus could do about Nemesis form Ramatra punching him. You can't block that.
No. You can't block that. You can try to stay away from it, but even that's going to be hard. You got to look at the other players who aren't going to be as protected, such as Wit. Big source of damage. This choke point is notoriously difficult to break through on King's Row, and with how Purdue have been playing, this is going to be one of the best spots for them to hold in the entirety of the map. Smog Shatter online. This one's going to be free. Amazingly, only lands on Akira Kuki, easily kept alive by the sound barrier, and Smogus just completely overextends. Purdue Steel, they were in control. Everything was in their favor, but they threw it all the way with a simple overextension.
Yeah, I don't think they were ready for that sound barrier to come in to counter that shatter. Now we're going to see some swaps coming in from Purdue Steel. And there we go, the Junker Queen. I've been waiting for this, especially into the matchup against Kirakuki, because this bleed can limit the amount of, because the amount of damage resist you get when you're your Nemesis form blocking, that bleed is still going to affect big time onto the Ramatra. But you have to deal with an incoming annihilation.
The ultimates for now on Valpo's side. They need to move up and make them work fast. The Annihilation easily able to end a team. You don't even need to punch. It's just extra damage laid out on top. Kirakuki and the rest of Valpo wiping the floor clean of the Purdue Steel. They'll be squeaking their way through to Objective 3.
Yes, it's going to be a very quick second point coming in from Valpo, which is good because they needed to make up time after it took 75% of their time bank just to cap the first point. Unfortunately, it cost them 4 of their ultimates. They will have this nano coming in from Corvus, but Purdue Steel's made some swaps. They're going to have Payload go over to the Reaper, Blaze Blade go to the Genji, and it's already paying off.
Big swaps made by Purdue. The Bionade, sure, that looks real nice. Felt like we saw it before that fight ended up happening, and Smogus just trampled Valpo Esports back into their spawns.
So this is a situation for Purdue Steel where they have no choice but to have to get in and be aggressive and win these fights fast, because you're on limited heals with Goose on this Moira. So you want to just speed in, win these fights, and give Valpo no chance to sustain.
Amazingly though, Goose already does have Coalescence online, despite just swapping over to the heroes. Purdue Steel, they're going to have quite a bit to work with in this battle. They're getting aggressive. They're not stopping. The speed onto Payload makes him look like a dancing Beyblade out there, whipping through the backlines of Valpo Esports. So clean and done with one ult.
Yeah, as we see that the Junker Queen match coming out from Kirakiri as what
Look
a
at the
great
speed on that.
Death Blossom coming in from Payload. It is ridiculous as we now see the next fight ensuing. A lot of support ultimates online for both of these teams, but Blaze Blade with the looming blade. Now the sound barriers pop. This blade could go big in the middle of this next fight.
Very well can. As soon as the sound barrier is done for Valpo Esports, the nano boost is out. Smogus took down the Auto. They're not even gonna need the blade, but wait! Wind comes in. That's a triple kill! The Reaper, the Death Blossom, Purdue, they didn't see it coming, and now they're the ones that are running for the heals. Valpo Esports, against all odds, come out on top.
Yeah, that was what Wit was waiting for the sound barrier engage from Purdue. Once that was gone, the Death Blossom is able to do its damage, but this is dangerous territory for Valpo. They're coming into a Blade and a Rampage.
Yeah, and the Blade coming out, the sound barrier is committed last fight. You need Blaze Blade to do big things with it. It is in the name, after all. Blade might as well be on fire, but if you can't get healed up, this causes quite more of an issue. Late Rampage actually committed, but one that was well needed with the trade that came through.
Yeah, 40 seconds left on the clock. One final fight for Valpo to try and get this home. They're going to have a Rampage of their own, and in the midst of this fight, Realm should build the Blade. This is looking bad for Purdue Steel. They gotta try and force out both these ultimates in this next fight so they can come back and get the dub on the next fight.
Oh, but that Rampage is just beautiful. There's a reason purple is the best color. Oh, and Valpo are wiping the floor of Purdue Steel. Once again, the Payload on the move. If anyone can get on the cart for Purdue Steel, that would be critical, denying this touch, at least forcing it to be an overtime. Even if they don't win the fight, that's what you have to do. But the Blade coming out in the spawn contest is present, so overtime will start. And Valpo Esports, they might not even get the full capture. Goose holding onto this Coalescence for so gosh dang long, Ray, and it's coming out when it is needed the most for the defensive team. The extra burst of damage and heals, just the thing to halt the Payload 4.39 meters from its resting spot.
Stopping the cap is big for Purdue Steel, especially if they can get off to a quick start on their first point attempt, and they set themselves into a clear win condition. They just got to get the cart to the very end of point number 3, and they're going to be looking at a very convincing 2-0 series lead. But I like the grit we've seen at Esports, swapping over to the Ramattra to break open that first point, and then when Purdue Steel made those requisite changes to go over to the Junker Queen to help counter the Ramattra, they matched the Junker Queen and played it well. It just came down to a situation where that coalescence just came through strong in the end. So seeing a lot out of Valpo Esports, it's looking pretty good.
Valpo Esports certainly have made improvements since game number 1. We wanted to see the flexibility from both of those teams. That's what we talked about during the break, and that's exactly what is happening in Kings Row right now. Valpo Esports have stepped up their game since moving over to the Junker Queen, and that's exactly where they were going to stick this defense with a few changes in the midst.
As we take a look at the defense coming out from Valpo Esports, they're going to continue to play this Junker Queen. They have found a lot of value on this, and they're going to play the Reaper with the Mei. So they're also going to take a page out of the book of Purdue Steel and play the Moira with it. So a lot of great adjustments coming out from Valpo, and I hope it works out for them. As Purdue Steel, they're not wavering. They're going to continue to play this Genji. Can they find the value, especially against a Mei?
There's a big difference. The Genji versus the Mei here. Mei's gonna have a lot more power in terms of setting up the eliminations, and if you're not even gonna need the Mei, great! Because it doesn't look like Imrealm was gonna survive. That's all of the cooldowns forced out. The team had to rush in with the support, and Imrealm still ends up falling. That's big for Purdue Steel. Those supports in the back line down, however, Valpo Esports pushing the W keys down, knowing that's what's going to allow them to stabilize, hold on to this fight. We get to see your favorite Brawl tank in action today, Ray, and I'm loving it.
I am too, as going into that small room, I feel like it's kind of a mistake coming out from Purdue Steel. That's exactly where Imrealm wants to be, can take full advantage of that primary fires. Now they're looking to try and push this objective.
That Mei ball is wonderful. Even if it doesn't get an elimination, it forces out so much. However, Smogus builds up that rampage so much quicker than Kirikuka, almost twice as fast. Valpo Esports even 3-on-3 as of now. And Valpo, they still have a couple more. It's Goose and Payload, the only ones available right now for the attackers. And they're managing to close it out, even with things getting all frosty on the point.
Oh, and getting that Blizzard out of Imrealm is going to be absolutely huge, because this next point choke at the archways that Valpo is going to be able to hold, now you don't have that Blizzard to be able to easily hold on that point. As I mean, that's impressive for Purdue Steel. They get that point with relative ease, and they set themselves up with a good time bank to try and get this point B, but they got to be very wary. Wit's got this Death Blossom in hand. We saw how dangerous they were last time they used it. Let's see if they can do that once again.
Wit was holding that last Death Blossom since map number 1. Don't do the same thing here. I mean, use it quickly. You're going to build up to one of these eventually, and you'd rather just let it come out when it's needed the most. It's a couple players separated by the Mei wall, still very patient with the ultimate, waiting for that big opportunity to come through, or just for an elimination to occur regardless of it. But a Death Blossom in the backline, this one thankfully shut down for the sake of a Valpo University point hold.
This archway already showing the greatness in how hard it is for an attacking team to push through. They didn't even have to commit that much. All they used was the coalescence in exchange for the Death Blossom, and you'll take that exchange every day to Sunday, because that coalescence is going to be much quicker and easier to build up than that Death Blossom.
Yeah, it's just always up. It's essentially a cooldown at the rate that it builds, and it's what gives Purdue these easy wins, and you don't have to worry about the Death Blossom with the amount of sustain that comes on through. But Valpo, the sound barriers have been key from them. Solaris has done so much. The timing has been great, but it's not there to counter out the rampage. It's another Blizzard from Imrealm to stop it, but all the players are far gone. Purdue Steel ignore the rest of the team, continue the chase out. Even if the defense end up getting a couple more elims, Ray, there's no way they hold with the spawns getting so far away. The rampage was still committed. Either Kirikuki is switching, or you're really gonna want that one back.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that Rampage exchange. I was actually surprised because Monster in the midst of that fight actually Ajax, but Smogist is able to bring it back with a huge Rampage coming in. So Valpo is going to have no ultimates this next fight, but neither will Purdue Steel. And Corvus, Arm Corvus is actually the closest one to this essence. So that's going to be a big buff for Valpo in this next fight.
Valpo, one of the few ultimates on the table. We built up in the matter of seconds, but if they go down before it happens, Purdue Steel putting their pedal to the metal, rushing on up. They're not going to give Valpo another chance to contest this point and make sure they're not going to have a fight for quite some time. Look at the time bank about to hit. Nearly 4 minutes for Purdue Steel to get close to finishing this map.
Trying to go up 2-0 in the series as they dominated Lijiang Tower, trying to do the same on King's Row, but we've seen the clap back from Valpo as we now see Solaris going off the Lucio, wants more heals and that immortality field to help keep their team alive.
I don't know how I feel about that. Speed is a big part of this composition, and that's why Purdue have been doing so well. They just rush forward between the Junker Queen, between the Lucio. But you are right, the sustain is the biggest difference that these two teams are going to have. And if Valpo want to fight the long fight, sure, you can hang around a little bit longer with the big dogs. You just don't have the speed. You don't have the sustain to pull your way at the end. And this will be a nice hold for Valpo.
But you got the car into a position where you're in final fight territory for Purdue Steel, and you're coming up on 4 crucial ultimates as Valpo is really hoping this Blizzard and Death Blossom can find its value before Purdue just assimilates their ultimates and wipes Valpo off the server.
Big ults, big tools on the table, 4 of them to be exact. Purdue Steel, they're going to get in, and they're going to engage first with every single one of these fights is gone. They're forcing Immortality Field out. There's no sound barrier in play. They're just overwhelming themselves with the Q-Fest at hand. The Death Blossom from Wit far too late to make any sort of impact. And once again, Purdue acting first gets them the win.
You're going to get the late pick onto I'm Realm, but getting the exit pick onto Goose is probably just as big. However, Blaze Blade has the blade in his pocket, but Kirikui gets to come out with Rampage. Who makes the bigger impact?
Rampage down onto 3. The Dragon Blade going towards the back line is going to get onto the main support at a second for Blaze Blade. Falls in the end, but the work has been done. Several players' corpses lying half and half on the point as the brawl is there. Valpo Esports' spawns are much closer. They can TP out as much as they would like, and this is important for them to hold that golden box of victory just meters away. They need to stay on the payload, but they do not have the numbers to do it. As Purdue Steel looking to continue their undefeated run onto match point. Are playing at utilizing Monster and the cooldown from Smogist to just rush over into Valpo Esports. They're running almost the exact same composition here, but the difference is in that tempo, that stylistic. Purdue, they're essentially driving the bus with Valpo Esports shoved in the trunk.
We've seen this time and time again. The major difference, Purdue Steel has liked to put Blaze Blade on the Genji, while I'm Realm plays the Mei. We were curious if Blaze Blade was going to find trouble going up against I'm Realm in the Mei matchup, because that primary fire can just be so dangerous. But after a fight or two of a stumble on point A King's Row, Purdue Steel had not looked back after that, as Blaze Blade was able to find a lot of value on that Genji.
It looks great so far. It's the only difference that we're seeing between the compositions right now. The Genji, more pokey mobile versus the Reaper. Heavy front damage onto the Junker Queen, which hasn't been much of an issue right now. The Mei looking to split up some of these players, and it actually splits up the wrong people. Arm Corvus, the first to fall. The focus fire onto the supports for Purdue Steel. Need to get a lot of credit. Blaze Blade! It's not the cleanup crew. That's a quadruple kill, and why not give him all 5?
Yeah, that's what you had to worry about with Blaze Blade on the Genji. You just gets behind your entire team, just throws these shurikens, finds these kills, able to get these dash resets, and then it's so tough to focus down a Genji once that's happening, and Blaze Blade is just playing it to perfection. That's going to be a lot of early point progress coming in for Purdue Steel, as Valpo's got to find a different mode of engagement to deal with Blaze Blade.
Yeah. And are you going to do that anytime soon? BlazeBlade is nearly 80% to that ultimate already. You know how slow Dragon Blade takes to build up? The fact that Purdue are so close to a major win condition like that, and BlazeBlade is going to keep going on that streak. BlazeBlade, the only one with final blows in this map so far. Finally, Monster getting his name on the board with 2 of his own. And Purdue Steel, they're going to go ahead, start to close this one out. One potential touch available.
I don't even think you're going to attempt if you're Valpo Esports. You'll probably just look to fight another day. It only costs Purdue Steel the Coalescence. You know, maybe you touch, but you don't really have the ultimates to make something happen. You'd have to hope Wit gets a big Death Blossom. But yeah, it looks like they're just going to re-engage on this next point, which I think is the smart decision for Valpo, as it looks like we're headed toward Temple for the next one. So it's going to allow Valpo to get a nice position on this point, as we see.
This one's great for May. I'm Realm has the ability to put that wall up at these choke points, and you're actually going to see Purdue wait a little bit longer to push in, making sure those cooldowns can suffice in the meantime as all of those Qs are pressed on out. I count a total of 4 that have come through, but it's I'm Realm with the eliminations in the kill feed. Valpo looking to hold the advantage that they have, taking the one fight that they can get at a big cost from Purdue.
And you're able to hold on to that Blizzard. So that's going to be a big deal coming into this next fight for Valpo to continue to build up this percentage and try and tie it up, as the Blade not going to be able to find much because of that well-placed sound barrier from Solaris. Payload going to have this Death Blossom. No sound barrier available for the likes of Valpo Esports, so he's the one who can really open things up for Purdue Steel.
Purdue wanting to go in. But it's Valpo who strike first. We mentioned that's exactly what we needed them to do, is to take that initiative. And while they did just that, is the one Death Blossom from Payload enough to come in? They're not turning around to look at the Reaper in the backlines. The Colos have to be there. The one trigger hiding in the back, the assassin of the dark, is getting Purdue in control.
As again, that's just, you know, unfortunate. You thought you were going to capitalize on this Blizzard, but in the meantime, Payload is just behind the entire team and just obliterating them with those Hellfire shotguns. And, you know, Valpo threw in every ultimate they had into that fight. So if you're Purdue, you continue to defend here. You're going to have Coalescence. You'll get Rampage in this fight. They're looking and sitting pretty right now.
They're sitting pretty and they're running pretty on forwards, to be exact. Purdue Steel once again pushing up on the Coalescence. So far they've had such a high success rate off an ultimate that is seemingly one of little value. Purdue Steel coming out on top and making it look easy.
Yeah, normally you don't think of the Coalescence as like, we're going to only use this and win the fight, but Purdue Steel, it just amplifies their aggression, allows them to push forward, and Goose just keeps them alive. They don't even really use it aggressively to kill people. They use it to enable their team to be aggressive, and now they're going to have this Rampage to throw in.
They're holding so far up too. The Rampage, yeah, it's not going to get a lot of value, but look how displaced Valpo are. They have to rush to the point, and they turned their backs to the Blade, who's ready to stab them, slice through the backlines, has been doing so all game so far. Valpo have a very difficult time dealing with them, and it's going to cost them a lot to get back in control, but they will not find it at all. Purdue Steel closing out point 2 is now we're going to have to see a reverse sweep on top of a reverse sweep for Valpo to stay alive.
I'd say the one positive you get from Valpo out of that fight was you forced Payload to have to use that Death Blossom because the pressure Kirikiri was placing with that Junker Queen still alive on the point and the rest of your team being dead. You are going to have to worry about this Blade, but once again, Solaris is going to have this sound barrier to completely counteract it.
Counters are in place, but the timing needs to be on point. The sound barrier must go off because BlazeBlade has to know that Solaris is holding on to this ultimate. It's been a while since we've seen anything from Valpo. They have a 5-fingered punch ready to unleash, but they're just gonna let the point get capped first. A decision they might regret later, especially if they don't find the value out of the ultimates committed. It's the Dragon Blade into the back. The sound barrier, it's there, but not before they lose the main support. You have to be rushing now, using those speeds, cooldowns to your advantage. Perhaps the scramble mode is when we're going to see Valpo perform the best.
I'm really surprised they just afforded Purdue Steel 35%
Crazy.
on that point when you had the ultimates and could have just forced them out. For Valpo, you will be able to continue to hold with this Rampage and the Coalescence. The one thing they have to be worried about is now Monster has the sound barrier, and the sound barrier does so much to counteract a Rampage.
This is going to be the best option right now for Purdue Steel. They're feeling pretty good, and it's another Coalescence online. Goose has done amazing things for Purdue when you've seen it come out. It allows Blade, I was about to say Beyblade, but Blaze Blade, excuse me, slicing and just spinning around with how quick this player is turning from target to target and letting them fall one by one. Valpo don't have a tank at all. And Purdue, there's not much that they really need to end up closing this out. They're going to get the flip back over with a minor ultimate commitment.
Yeah, you have to get out or die if you're Valpo. You can't afford to get staggered. And Aurum Corvus gets staggered. Very unfortunate. Is now the Rampage comes in. They're going to get aggressive.
Oh, you got to capitalize on this elimination. Smogus made a risky but rewarding decision to get that stagger in. This is going to be one last fight if Valpo can get a touch.
Yeah, it's their last opportunity to keep themselves alive in this series. All they're going to have is this Rampage, in which should be able to build up to this Death Blossom. The good thing is the Rampage should force out the sound barrier, so then you're in a Death Blossom versus Death Blossom fight with Payload.
Everyone else is anteed up. Is the sound barrier coming in? And Payload spinning around, booped into the back lines. Not where you want a Reaper to be, especially for Valpo. They were looking okay, but Purdue Steel miles and miles beyond the composition. This will be them taking that series 3-0, still yet to drop a map.
Yeah, Purdue Steel flexing their dominance, showing why they're undefeated and have a plus 12 map differential in this Challengers division, and winning the battle of the Hoosier State without having to sweat at all. They never felt nervous. They were just calm, cool cucumbers and just played with aggression.